Hey there, this is JG. We're talking about Raid Shadow Legends, and tonight we're going to do a blessing tier list. Now, I've seen tier lists from a lot of other content creators. I don't really like to repeat things that people have done before, but I've seen everyone else's tier list seem to be focused on telling you what blessings are good if you have someone awoken to 6 stars. I don't know about you, I don't have anyone at 6 stars. I'm not sure I'm ever going to get anyone at 6 stars. What I do have instead are a lot of champions that I like that I got to 1 star because I found one perfect soul in the soul merchant that I wanted to pick up. So tonight I'm going to do a tier list for 1-star blessings. Which blessings are actually useful and valuable to you at 1 star. The stats don't matter because you're not getting any stat bonuses from them. So we're just talking about what abilities are pretty good at the very lowest level in Awakenings. So let's get started with the rare blessings. Honestly, I think there's only one rare blessing worth taking here. So we'll work through them pretty quickly. Indomitable Spirit, it's bad at 6 stars. It is terrible at 1 star. Don't take this. Miracle Heal, similarly, it's very situational, occasionally good at high awakenings, pretty terrible at low awakenings. This isn't something worth taking. Dark Resolve, just like the one above in light, this isn't a great awakening, even under the best circumstances. Don't take it. Phantom Touch, this is the one. This is the one good awakening, good blessing that you can get in with just 1 star. So I played around with this one a lot tonight to make sure I really understand it. So at 1 star, you get a 20% chance of inflicting bonus damage. That scales up to 100% chance at the higher awakening, or even more than 100%. You can deal the damage twice at 6 stars. Some of the other content creators, so Saf from Hell Hades did a video on this and figured out the damage formula here. So it does 5x attack and it ignores 30% of defense. Also, it can't crit. So I did a little math figuring out, how good is this? A 5x attack ignoring 30% defense. If that were your A1 skill, that would be a great A1. The fact that it can't crit lowers it a little bit. And so obviously this will be better if you have high attack. It'll be better against high defense because that 30% ignored defense is worth more. The more crit damage you have on your champion, the lower this is going to be damage-wise compared to your normal hits. But looking at kind of a middle-of-the-road champion, middle-of-the-road build, if their normal attack is maybe a 3.5x attack, and they have maybe 150% crit damage and full crit rate, then the value of a Phantom Touch proc is about 3/4 of an A1 hit. So that's a pretty nice chunk of damage. This is on par with like a counter attack buff or something like that. You get an extra hit each round that places a decent amount of damage. It's not huge, but this is a nice amount of bonus damage. As a rare blessing, this is pretty nice. And so the other thing I played around with tonight is so 20% chance of inflicting bonus damage. So if we're saying this does 3/4 of an A1 worth of damage, then at 20% of that you're at like 15%. Now plus 15% total damage output for your champion, that's not bad. That's a decent boost. But in most circumstances, I think you can do significantly better than this 20%. So what do I mean by that? Well, it looks like this can proc on every hit. Now, keep in mind, it does have a 1-turn cooldown, so it can't proc multiple times. If you have a 4-hit skill like Cold Heart, it can only proc on one of those before the cooldown goes on. But if it's 20% per hit, then for something like a Cold Heart, that's more like an 80% chance that it procs somewhere in the skill, which is not bad at all. So I did a little bit of testing with this. I had 2 champions that have this actually at level 3, and they have 2-hit A1s. I got 100 recorded hits of this, and so it's supposed to be 40% at 3 stars. If it's 40% per hit, then you expect a 64% total proc rate. Across 100 runs, I got a 60% total proc rate with what I'm clocking in as a margin of error of plus or minus 10%. So that definitely consistent with the 64%, less consistent with 40%. So I could gather more data to be more confident on this, or if I had this on a Cold Heart, the difference would be so much more pronounced, it'd be easier to measure. But as far as I can tell, it's 20% per hit, which means even though it's a max of 1 per turn, you have a lot of other opportunities to do it. So if it's an AoE hit and you're hitting 4 or 5 opponents, a pretty high chance that it'll proc on one of those. If You have a multi-hit A1, pretty high chance it procs. You also have the opportunity, I've seen it proc on counterattacks. It can work on counterattacks, so if you're wearing counterattack gear, have a counterattack buff, even a revenge ring or something like that. And there's a lot of ways that you can pick up extra opportunities for it to proc and honestly get it pretty close to this 100% chance that you get at the 5th Awakening. So, and the damage doesn't go up as you get higher. So, all it does when you get higher is it's more likely to proc. But if you've got enough hits on your champion that they have a high chance to proc anyway, then you actually have most of the benefit here at 1 star. So this is a great 1-star Awakening. All the other reviewers point out this is the best rare blessing by far. And yeah, it holds up even at 1 star. Moving on to War. Hero's Soul is the only other one that I would consider at 1 star. Chiefly if you have someone that you're planning to use a bunch in Spider. At Spider against 11 people at once, that's plus 5% damage. 5%, not a huge amount. You probably still here would be hoping that you're finding more Awakening Stars on this person later to turn this into a bigger value. But yeah, it definitely gets good at the higher Awakenings for people that are in Spider. It's okay. It's probably not going to add as much damage as Phantom Touch is going to, but it's one you can consider. Faultless Defense, very situational at the best of times. At 5% damage reduction per hit, this isn't really doing anything for you. Don't take this at 1 star. Chaos, Carapace, if by any chance you're planning to spend a lot of time under stun, freeze, or crowd control buffs, 10% isn't a bad amount of damage reduction, but it's not very substantial. This isn't a great blessing because you generally don't want to have these buffs on you. And Survival Instinct, 2% turn meter when you get a debuff, that is nothing. That is not worth it. So if it's a rare champion and you only have them at 1 star, take Phantom Touch. That's the one you want. Now let's go through the epic. The epic blessings, they are pretty similar. I think there's really only one that you want in most situations. So Iron Will, 5% damage reduction is not all that substantial, and it's pretty situational at best. You probably don't want this. Heaven Cast, again, pretty situational. Under the best circumstances, you need to have a really particular champion in a really particular place for this to be valuable. Ignoring 5% of resistance, that's worth what, like 10 accuracy? No, that's not worth it. Cruelty. This is the best one in the epic tier. Honestly, for most champions, I would say it is worse than Phantom Touch. So what you can do with Cruelty is you can stack permanent decreased defense, so the whole rest of your team is going to be hitting harder. So 1% per hit, and since it's per hit, someone with multi-hit is going to stack that up faster. But for a long-running fight, long-running boss fight in particular, you can get 5% defense down on a boss, 10% on everyone else. So the biggest place where this makes sense is something like Clan Boss. So 5% defense off Clan Boss, it's a nice long-running fight, so you can probably stack that up in the first round and have 47 turns of 5% defense down. That's going to translate with Clan Boss's defense value to about plus 3% damage for all the physical damage that's done. Note that that's not going to increase your poison damage, so it probably won't add to your total Clan Boss score. But potentially, if you're at 30 to 40 million in the physical damage you're doing, this can be plus 1 million to your Clan Boss score. So if you're kind of right on the line of like 2 key and 1 key, or 3 key and 2 key for something, this is something that could push you over. Again, you only need 1 on the team. So especially someone, if you're hoping you're going to find some more Awakening Stars for them later, and someone that you expect to still use a lot in Clan Boss or similar long boss fight type content, this might be a good one to take, and hope that you get it to a higher level. Again, plus 3 to 4% total damage for the team. That's really not going to substantially improve your clear time on things. But this is not bad, and it's one that grows into much more useful if you do pick up more Awakening Stars later. Lethal Dose. This is bad even at 6 stars. This is terrible at 1 star. Commanding Presence. So these aura buffs get a lot of attention from the other content creators. I have to say, I think below 6 stars, they're not worth it. Even at 5 stars, 15%, that would take like a 25% speed buff and turn it into a 27% speed buff. So that's worth like 2 2.5 points of speed to your team. If you're just right on the bubble with someone in arena, that might make a difference. I think in most situations that's not going to be worth a lot. 35%, that's a bigger jump. That becomes more like plus 7, plus 9 across the team. That's fairly substantial. But here, down at 1 star, strengthens your team aura by 2%. If you're talking a speed aura, that's going to be less than a point of speed added. So don't take commanding presence at 1 star. Chainbreaker, another one. This gets a lot of attention because it has good stats to add to it. But at 1 star, you're not getting any of those stats. Only a 5% chance to remove these. That's not really going to change the tide of any particular battle. Chainbreaker's not great at 1 star. Crushing Rend. This is another one that varies really substantially at higher levels. Again, I think this is great at 6 stars, where every hit can ignore defense. That can add a lot of damage to someone. Everything prior to 6 stars, I think, is pretty terrible. Since it scales with level, this is really best in PvE content. This is great against high-level bosses where, every 25 levels, they're at level 250, 350, something like that. This becomes a substantial amount of ignoring. But anywhere under 6 stars, it's only up to 2 hits that qualify for this. And it doesn't say 2 hits per target, so it looks like, after your first hit goes away in the round, it's gone. Most places where you care about ignoring defense, you'd like more hits than that. Arena, this would be good if it were at a higher percentage. You can imagine a nuker wanting to ignore a lot of defense. But since it's by level, here at 1 star, 1% defense for every 50 levels, that means in arena, that's worth a maximum 1% ignored defense. That is not going to do anything for you. And even at level 5, that's 2% ignored defense in arena. That's not going to make a big difference either. So I say at 1 star, Crushing Rend is worthless. Even really up to 5 stars, I don't think Crushing Rend is great, although the stats aren't bad on it. It's really 6 stars where Crushing Rend becomes a really phenomenal blessing. Incinerate, just like Lethal Dose, this is a bad one, a weird one, something that you're not really going to want to take. Even at level 6, at level 1, don't take it. So for epics, really, even up to epic rarity, there's only 2 blessings that should be interesting to you in the majority of cases at 1 star, and that's going to be Cruelty and Phantom Touch. So Dark Divinity, that's where it's at. Cruelty and Phantom Touch are the ones that are valuable, nothing else. Now let's get into the legendary blessings. Now the legendary blessings are a lot more varied and a lot more interesting. So there's a good number of these that are potentially worth it. So first of all, Intimidating Presence. Again, this is really high in a lot of other people's tier lists, but at 1 star, and in my opinion, maybe up to 4 stars, it starts getting pretty substantial at 5 stars. I don't think it's worth it at 1 star. Wait until you get a higher awakening value before you switch someone over to Intimidating Presence. Lightning Cage. Honestly, I'm going to have to see some more research on Lightning Cage. There's a whole lot of text here. I think I understand how it's supposed to work, but until I see it in action, I'm not positive just how good this is going to be. Especially, this 50% chance to protect. If you have 3, is that 150% chance, or is that 87.5% chance? Those are all things that I want to know. But the key thing here is the main thing that changes as you get further down here is that you can get more lightning orb stacks quicker. The up through 5 stars, the bonus damage is the same, and this ability to protect buffs is actually pretty solid at the 1st star. So, although I'm not totally sure how great Lightning Cage is going to be yet until I see a little more of it in action, I think at 1 star it's about as good as it is, up to 2, 3, 4 stars. So, if Lightning Cage is useful for your build, I think it's still pretty useful at just 1 star. Temporal Chains. This one decreases enemy speed when they are under a lot of buffs. Again, this one I'd like to see a little testing on. I'm guessing because this is an in-combat proc that it is based off of modified speed and not on base speed, which means, it's something like Arena, if you're talking somewhere between 200 and 300 speed, this can do up to minus 20 or so on their speed. That is a pretty substantial debuff on speed just for 1 star. So again, this one gets somewhat better as you get higher up, but this one I think it's useful even at 1 star. This looks like it's mainly an arena ability. You don't see in most content, you don't like PvE content, you don't see a lot of buffs out there, but yeah, in arena, even at 1 star, this is going to make a difference. This will be a pretty useful one to take if you want it. Ward of the Fallen, that's another one. I need to see some playtesting on this to really understand this all the way. There's a lot of text here, and I'm not sure I understand everything that it does. But it looks like at 1 star, you get 1 bone armor stack that will just decrease damage from 1 hit. There's no way for the bone armor stack to regenerate, if I'm reading it right. So, yeah, I don't think that at 1 star, Ward of the Fallen is going to be valuable. War, we have Life Harvest. This one's kind of funky and situational. I think the only 6% destroyed HP here, that's not going to make a very substantial difference. Maybe if you're talking Ice Golem, where by the 4th or 5th revive of the minions, this has made a substantial chunk, but I don't think this really improves your Ice Golem clear times. This is one where you don't want to start considering this until you're at a much higher awakening level. Soul Reap, another one. I'd like to see the playtesting on this. It does say it ignores damage reduction skills. I'm guessing though that doesn't mean that it ignores unkillable. So getting someone down to 1 HP and then having the Reaper finish them off, I don't think happens. So other content creators have pointed out, this is potentially useful in arena where if they're at low HP, this potentially lets you finish them off. So it can turn a near kill into a complete kill. Assuming that the playtest holds up there, obviously this gets better at higher awakenings, but I think it still gives you a chance of pulling off an extra kill in arena that can make the difference between a win and a loss. I think at 1 star, this is one that's worth still considering. Polymorph, this is a funky one. Mostly the consensus seems to be that Polymorph is not all that interesting. It's just kind of there for the lull factor. But 5% chance, not a great chance, not a terrible chance. Unless we see Polymorph being shown to be particularly powerful and meta relevant in some types of builds, I think that especially with the low prop rate, this isn't worth it at 1 star. Especially because in the Chaos Divinity, Brimstone is one of your other options. So Brimstone, I think, is one of the very best options you can take. However, sort of like Cruelty, you only really need 1 in the team to get the effect out of it. So what this does is sort of curses folks so that when they use an active skill, it does this meteorite proc. It does a substantial amount of damage to the person that it's on, as well as splash damage to the entire team. But you can only have 1 smite debuff active total on the team. So that's why it doesn't help to have more than 1. But sort of like with Lightning Cage or some of these other ones, like even what's it called? The Phantom Touch. You get the damage on this doesn't go up as the level goes up. What goes up is the proc rate. And so even at 1 star, this does full damage. They're very clear in this. It's each hit has a chance to place smite. So multi-hitters, folks with counterattack, this is a useful one. You can see this is on my Hellcat here. I picked this up in the Soul Market yesterday for Hellcat, and it has totally been worth it. So he hits twice, which means this 20% is actually more of a, what is it, like 36%, 34%, something like that, every time he attacks. So pretty good chance to place there. Because of I use him in clan boss teams and use his block damage, he has that counterattack when a block damage person gets hit, so he has extra chances to proc from there. So pretty much he's able to keep smite up with a pretty substantial percentage. I haven't seen it tested yet whether you can extend the duration of smite to keep it up for longer. It has a 4-turn cooldown, so if you place it for 2 turns and a 4-turn cooldown, you can keep it up about 50% of the time, although in something like Clan Boss, where you're running a faster speed than the Clan Boss, you take 4 turns, faster than he takes 4 turns. So you can get pretty close to 100% uptime for something like Clan Boss here, depending on how fast your comp is. This hits for 250k every time the clan boss uses his A2 or A3 skills. So theoretical, if you keep it up for a full 50-turn unkillable clan boss fight, that would be up to 8 million total damage across the whole run. That's a pretty substantial addition. Definitely just adding this, even at 1 star, to my team has pushed my borderline. Magic affinity usually gives me trouble. It pushed me from from sometimes 3 key into definitely 2 key territory in Ultra Nightmare. Just did 50 million instead of my usual 40 million in Nightmare. So this one makes a big difference. And particularly for places like Clan Boss and Iron Twins. So the nice thing for Iron Twins, this does damage when the boss uses their skill. So if you're building an unkillable team, for Iron Twins, you want to stack up all that damage at the point where they're using their turn, because that's the point that you've prepared your team to block the damage. So this puts a large amount of damage at just the perfect time. So this one's fantastic for that. And really any boss content, this can add a substantial amount of damage. You only need 1, but if you can pick up 1 star on a legendary champion, this is a great way. Anyone that you use in a lot of boss content, it's going to deal a lot of damage. I imagine it does a lot in Hydra, although I haven't tested it out there. So Smite is definitely, I think, the premier one to take, with the problem being multiple smites on multiple champions isn't going to do any more for you, so you can look at some of those earlier ones. So that's it. That's my tier list for 1-star Awakening blessings. To summarize, the 3 you really want to pay attention to are Phantom Touch, Cruelty, and Brimstone. And then in the legendary tier, there are a few others where, if they make sense for your build and the content that you're doing, a good number of them have value even at 1 star, even though, of course, all of them get better as you add stars. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.